Is it better to remake a successful movie or a bad movie? Risks for both. Remaking a bad one might actually initially get a few views, but if the original is improved on, there's would have been a greater legacy. Yeah, so I mean, I think this is always a tough one of like, what movies should be remade? The natural inclination is this movie was a hit movie, people liked it, now let's do it in the modern era with modern technology, modern humor, and updating it for modern times, hopefully in the good sense, not the bad sense of that. There's a logic to that makes sense. That it worked before, let's do it again, but do it for now. Flip side to that is, hey, wait a minute. This is an awesome movie. It's still an awesome movie. And as someone with kids, I try and show them as much as I can. I'll watch movies all the time, and I want them to love the movies that I love. And, we watched the original Ghostbusters, and my son was like cracking up at Bill Murray. And he's seen that movie before, but it was like the first time it seemed like he really understood Bill Murray humor. And 40 years later, Bill Murray is still funny, and Ghostbusters is still a great movie, a fantastic movie that stood the test of time. And maybe that's a bad example because they've been doing sequels or trying to do sequels all along the way. But you think like when we do these remakes, like, should you try and remake Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, or should you find a movie that underperformed? Find a movie that had a great premise, but didn't quite work right. Dune had two previous adaptations. The David Lynch version 40 years ago, and then the sci-fi miniseries 24 years ago. The Dune one, for a 1984 one, had a massive budget. It had a solid director, but there was a bunch of reasons it didn't work at that time with the runtime that it had, with the limitations of special effects. I don't think it works at all. But Dune was still great source material. And so they did the sci-fi miniseries, which is a faithful adaptation, but it was made for $20 million 24 years ago. A lot of it looks dreadful. It just looks terrible because it's trying to tell this big sweeping sci-fi epic with a limited budget 24 years ago. So then you remake Dune now. 2 parts, $400 million amongst the two, or $350 million for the 2 parts. Modern technology, top tier director, top tier cast, and you took something that didn't quite work before and you give it a great treatment now that we can do it right. And you go, that's a great remake or a great new adaptation. I think that's an example where people are really happy that they did this because the previous one didn't quite right. And now we can do it right. It's tough to say though, because there's so many examples of terrible remakes or remakes that are slick, but they remade a bunch of the Paul Verhoeven movies, RoboCop, Total Recall. They do these modern remakes that have, current technology. They're slick. They're, have a beginning, middle, and end. They have everything they're supposed to have to be a slick 21st century blockbuster, but they lacked the soul that made those Verhoeven movies classics. They took away all of the personality and gave them slickness instead. And so they just feel hollow. And so people reject them because of that. And I think to an extent, that's even what the Lady Ghostbusters was a bit of that. If you watch Lady Ghostbusters as a Paul Feig ghost movie, it's not offensive. It's not one of his stronger films, but it's like, yeah, it's a silly Paul Feig comedy with Ghost and his usual cast members. If you watch it as a Ghostbusters movie, what is going on here? This isn't a Ghostbusters movie. What are we doing? What is this humor? Why is this so silly? Why are there so many dance numbers? Suddenly it's offensive because you tied it to this other thing. So I don't think there's one answer. It's not one size fits all. I think ideally it's best when you can find something that didn't work before, but it could work now. Dune did that. And there's other ones where they've done that. Or sometimes it's a cultural thing where culture has changed enough, or it's a foreign film and it's just enough cultural specificity that you adapt it for a Hollywood audience, for Americans, and there's reasons to do it. Those are the good, better ones.
Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.